How to write an absolutely incredible critical appraisal for your research degree. Writing a critical appraisal for the first time can be both an exhilarating but daunting process. Whether it's for your IBSc for your medical degree, a master's program, or a PhD, understanding how to write a well-crafted and effective critical appraisal is an essential skill for any student in academia. A critical appraisal is a detailed analysis of existing literature and research within your field. An effective critical appraisal can demonstrate your ability to critically evaluate existing literature, identify gaps in knowledge, and position your research to contribute positively to your field of academia. This article and video will offer a comprehensive guide to help you craft a compelling and effective critical appraisal for any research degree. 1. Understand the purpose of your critical appraisal. Before diving into the writing process, it's essential to grasp the purpose of your critical appraisal. This section of your appraisal is not merely a summary of existing literature, but it is an in-depth analysis. Your goal is to evaluate existing literature, identify any gaps, and to justify your research. When evaluating existing literature, we want to assess the quality, credibility, and relevance of any previous studies. When identifying gaps, we want to highlight areas where they have not been adequately addressed or explored. And to justify your research, you want to be explaining how your research will fill these gaps and contribute to your field. 2. Conducting a thorough literature review. A solid critical appraisal begins with a comprehensive literature review. Here's how you can conduct an effective literature review. 1. Search and extensively use any databases like PubMed, Google Scholar to find any relevant studies. Don't limit yourself to the most recent articles. Historical context can be crucial. 2. Organize your findings. Use reference managers such as EndNote, Zotero, or Mendeley to keep track of your sources and notes. And 3. Read critically. Don't just take studies at face value. Evaluate their methodology, their sample size, and conclusion. Next, develop a clear structure. A well-structured critical appraisal will make your argument more coherent and persuasive. Here is a suggested structure. Begin with an introduction. Introduce the topic, outline the scope of your appraisal, and state your objectives. Then comes the body. Divide the body into subsections, each focusing on a specific aspect of the literature. This could include themes, methodologies, theoretical approach, or chronological developments. Next, evaluate the studies. Critically assess the strengths and weaknesses of each key study. After that, identify any gaps. Highlight inconsistencies, unanswered questions, and areas for finding needing further research. And finally, end with a conclusion. Summarize your key findings, restate the importance of your research, and outline how your study will address the identified gaps. 4. Critically evaluate sources. A critical appraisal requires more than just summarizing studies. You need to evaluate them critically, and this means assessing the methodology. Is the study's design appropriate for the research question? Are the sample sizes and the selection methods adequate? Analyze the results. Are the findings statistically significant? Do they generalize to the broader population? And finally, consider the implications. Do the conclusions logically follow from the results? And are there any potential biases or conflicts of interest? 5. Summarize your findings. After evaluating any individual studies, synthesize your findings to present a cohesive narrative. You can do this with a compare and contrast technique. Highlight any similarities or differences between the studies. Discuss how different methodologies or theoretical frameworks lead to different conclusions, and identify any patterns. Look for recurring themes, any common limitations, and consensus areas within the literature. And finally, as you're doing this, start to build your argument. Use the synthesized information to build a compelling argument for the importance of your research. 6. Be objective and balanced. Maintain objectivity throughout your critical appraisal. Acknowledge the contributions of other researchers while also pointing out their limitations. Being overly critical can undermine your credibility, while excessive praise may suggest a lack of critical thinking. 7. Use clear and concise language. Effective communication is the key to an excellent critical appraisal. Write clearly and concisely. Avoid jargon, so use technical terms only when necessary and explain them for clarity. Be precise. Avoid vague statements. Back up your claims with specific examples from the literature. Edit and proofread. Ensure that your writing is free from any grammar errors and typos. Consider using tools like Grammarly and Hemingway for assistance. And finally, some more generic advice. Always seek advice. Before finalizing your critical appraisal, seek feedback from peers, advisors, or mentors. They can provide valuable insights and help you to identify any areas that need improvement. Stay current. Research is constantly evolving, so it is really important to include the most recent and relevant studies. However, don't limit yourself just to recent studies. Providing historical context to the research is also just as valuable and as important. This can help to also strengthen your appraisal by demonstrating your engagement with ongoing research in an ongoing process over time. Remember to reflect on any ethical considerations. Consider the ethical implications of the studies that you review, and consider the ethical issues related to their study design, any data collection, and interpretation. Reflect on how your research will address and avoid these ethical concerns. And finally, always remember to reference appropriately. It's always important to cite any studies you evaluate using an accurate academic format. This will ensure that your research not only gives credibility to the original authors, but it will also help to strengthen the credibility of your own appraisal. In conclusion, writing a killer critical appraisal, whether that be for your IBSc, your master's, or PhD, is a challenging yet rewarding process. By conducting a thorough literature review, critically evaluating sources, and presenting a clear, objective, and well-structured argument, you can demonstrate your scholarly capabilities and lay a strong foundation for your research. By following the steps outlined in this video, you can produce a critical appraisal that not only enhances your thesis, but also contributes to the advancement of knowledge in your field. Thank you for listening.